up and it's still a great movie. The other, what did we just watch? All that and more today on Sci-Fi Weekly.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Sci-Fi Weekly.
Hey there, sci-fi fans. Welcome back to what this reality calls Popcorn Talk. I'm your host, Zach Wilson. Today on Sci-Fi Weekly, we're talking about The Matrix and a whole bunch of news and some crazy sci-fi in real life that I still don't believe is real because it's a crazy man. I'm your host, Zach Wilson. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @ThatZachWilson. Jesse Klein.
Hey everyone out there, I'm super excited to talk about all of this sci-fi news. I'm ready to get into it. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JessKlein1, that's JessKlein, the number one.
And be sure to follow Sci-Fi Weekly on Facebook and Twitter at Sci-Fi Weekly. It's a real simple place.
So
if you go to Facebook and click the like, that's where you can find all the images from today's show online. So if you're listening to this podcast and not watching it, you can go find it over there.
Oh, that's really cool.
And you can also leave a comment and berate and or praise us.
Ooh.
Both are appreciated.
I like them both, yeah.
All right. So we got to kick off every week as we do because there's so much news to cover, and there's only one speed that we can do it at, and that's ludicrous speed.
Ludicrous speed! Go!
News from the production of Assassin's Creed, the big screen adaptation. According to director Justin Kurzel, and I'm praying that I pronounced that right.
You and me both.
The film's trips into the 15th century, specifically to 15th century Spain, will be historically accurate to the point where they will all be speaking Spanish. Putting subtitles on half of the movie is a bold move, one unheard of on a major studio release like this. One studio executive was heard saying, well, no one in Hollywood that goes to see video game movies anyway, so whether they're in English or not, we figure it's the same result. Might as well let them do it.
Yeah, sure. Rumors are abound this week that Marvel's Avengers Infinity War is going to follow Thanos in his attempts to impress death. So basically, it's going to be a rom-com. You know, Thanos is going to sing her a song. He's going to stop her at an airport. And he's just going to say, I'm an intergalactic warlord, standing in front of the physical abstract of death, asking her to love him and commit intergalactic genocide.
Oh, man.
It's going to be beautiful.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
NBC Universal has optioned the rights to the comic book series Trees. Trees features a series, if Trees is a series, that explores a scenario in which aliens have landed on Earth and done nothing. They're just trees. Neither Jesse or I have read this comic book, unfortunately, but the synopsis leaves us very interested.
It leaves us.
It leaves us.
Yeah. More evidence this week that we are living in the future. Nike just unveiled Nike True. It's soon going to come out into wide availability. It's auto-lacing shoes.
It's real.
Like, you know, Back to the Future. We're going to get auto-lacing shoes. So, the thing is, though, it's going to have a 2-hour charge time. So even in the future, we are slaves to the outlets.
Yeah. 2 weeks.
2
I
weeks?
heard.
2 weeks? Oh,
it
sorry.
only lasts for 2 weeks.
Oh, it only lasts for 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, you're going to have to charge. Sorry.
Or your shoes are falling off.
Yeah, you're slaves to the outlet. Sorry.
Sean Levy, the executive producer of Stranger Things, expressed worry this week that there's no way that they can possibly live up to the expectations of Stranger Things Season 2. He said, it's scary to have people love something this much. It is scary, Sean, but is it scarier than what Barb went through?
What did Barb go through?
Is it? God. Did you stop and think about that before you made those comments? Barb knows what real scary is, man. You don't know scary.
Hey, Zach, you okay? Okay. Doctor Who spinoff The Class has finally revealed its premiere date, announcing that it will launch on BBC 3 Saturday, October 22nd, but only in the UK. A BBC America date is not expected until 2017, leaving American Whovians to wait, or You have the torrent window open right now, don't you? You already have a torrent window open. It's not even released yet. You can't get it.
In more class news, Peter Capaldi was officially confirmed that it's officially confirmed he's going to be appearing on episode 1 of the show entitled For Tonight We Might Die. They announced this with a picture on Twitter of the title page of the script. And if we remember last week, Kevin Smith's title page, like if you dug underneath it, there was some stuff. So I took this picture and worked some magic on it to see if I could read anything on the page underneath. And I got some gold. I found the words ball playing. Yes, I spent about an hour on that one.
You were just on Snapchat filters?
But it's very exciting stuff. These students are going to be playing catch, you guys. That's the big breaking news from class in that photo. It could be an alien ball, or like the ball could be an alien.
Okay.
That could be a scoop. I'm not gonna get that hour of my life back.
No, you're not. You're not going to. Amazon stuck their fork into the comic book world earlier this summer with The Tick, and now they've picked up their knife and cut off a piece as they've officially ordered a full season of The Tick. What?
Well, I was sort of expecting a spoon joke in there. You know, spoon.
Why would I say that?
We had the fork and the knife set up. Spoon is the Tick's catchphrase, it seemed.
Yeah, but I mean, we all know that. I'm not following you.
Well, I don't want to just move on to the next segment.
We could get in a fight if you want right now.
Over a spoon?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be interesting.
Hey, we watched The Matrix. There is no spoon.
Oh, God. All right, that's going to do it for Ludicrous Speed. We got to slow it down to talk about some more discussion-based news. Let's talk about... this week, Lost came back into the picture.
I love Lost.
One of my favorite shows of all time.
Yeah.
And they had a big concert this week with Michael Giacchino conducting and like playing music from scratch. I actually got to go.
Really?
It was super fun. I'm still wearing my T-shirt.
That's
from
awesome.
it with the Dharma Initiative with a music symbol.
That's a really cool T-shirt.
Yeah. But so there was some stuff that came out at the Q&A where people were asking. I was just curious, Jesse, what you thought was. They asked them if Carlton Cuse and David Lindelof had any regrets.
Yeah.
Now that the series is over and they've had time to, because this is a very controversial ending.
I'm pretty sure all of season 3, except for that one episode.
Well, the one thing he said was like, "Well, we knew right away that Nikki and Paolo were a mistake."
You're talking about those paralysis spiders?
Giacchino apparently really enjoyed the episode where they get buried alive.
Yeah, we all did. We were like, why are you trying to force these dumb characters on us? Maybe like answering why the statue had 4 toes. Maybe making it the final season clear instead of so weird and like...
Yeah, I mean, look, I love the finale of Lost, especially rewatching it. I'm a big defender of it. The last season, however... deeply flawed for the first time through.
Yeah. My biggest problem with the finale of Lost is it makes Jack the main character, which I would disagree with wholeheartedly as someone who's watched Lost, I think all the way through at least 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a cool concert. At one point, Jacob came out, or the actor that plays Jacob came out, and he read the scene of Jacob and the Man in Black first being revealed.
Oh, the red herring scene?
Yeah.
I love it.
Great scene. In other news, jumping back over to Doctor Who, we were talking about class.
Yeah, sure.
Earlier.
Yeah.
Stephen Moffat revealed this week why the TARDIS didn't like Clara.
Why didn't it?
He said that it's because the TARDIS knows all of time and space, and it knows the crazy depth and length that the Doctor is going to go to try to save Clara, and how bad it's going to be for him.
Oh.
So Moffat, what's interesting about this is we know that the TARDIS has a certain amount of intelligence and that it knows all of space and time, but the fact that it would actively try to manipulate the situation
and like, yeah, that's really interesting.
I'm curious, and you guys let us know in the comments and stuff if you think is Clara going to not Clara, is the TARDIS feeling that way going to come back this year? The fact that Moffat said this, like, while he's in production and everything, I'm wondering if
Yeah, I
it
feel like
has
that's
future
gotta-
implications. The TARDIS is actively trying to change the Doctor's future.
Yeah, I feel like that's got to come back at some point.
Yeah, but don't bring Clara back though. Leave her.
Leave her.
She died like 18 times.
She's died so many times.
So many times. All right, let's move on to sci-fi in real life,
Let's do it.
which, oh man, this week, I had to choose between a bunch of different stories
There
for
were
this.
some really good stories this week.
But Elon Musk announcing his plans for a trip to Mars
Yep.
seems like the big one. It's a real life mission to Mars.
It's for sci-fi in real life, it's really interesting because there's so many sci-fi novels that are about private space travel and about how like Earth's venture into the galaxy is mostly through private like endorsements and private space travel. And so having a real life person who's like, yeah, I've got tons of money, I'm going to try and get like humans off Earth is crazy and like so cool.
Yeah, I mean, this guy has more money than 99.99999% of the world.
Yeah, and he could give it to like poor people or dying people, but instead he's putting it in
He
space.
wants to go to space, man.
He's throwing his money into space.
For anyone who didn't hear, Elon Musk, like he announced this week that he has this very intricate plan to get to Mars.
Yeah.
He's still obviously working on like funding and everything because there's only so far that SpaceX can go on Tesla budget.
For sure.
But he's going to start by launching. He wants to start by launching these his Dragon rockets to Mars, and those are unmanned vehicles.
Yeah.
As a test.
They're
and
manned by dragons.
Yeah, yeah. He's working with NASA's what are they called? The Commercial Crew Program.
Yeah.
To get this going, and then the idea is that they are sharing data between the two of them, so that NASA's plans to get a person to Mars by 2030.
Yeah.
Might actually this just gets them more data in exchange for I think like $32 million worth of consulting.
All right.
Yeah.
That sounds like a fair trade.
But the crazy part was not just that he's going to launch some like the first like private machines to go to Mars, but that he thinks that the first step to getting humans there is just to launch hundreds of people at once.
Yeah.
He's planning a rocket, and we could show the rocket, which is the next photo, because like this is an artist rendering, obviously
Yeah.
not been built, but like it would require just the biggest rocket that has ever been built to get hundreds of people, not to mention supplies, all that stuff to Mars.
Yeah.
What's interesting that there's a lot of people talking about this, and there's one professor, I think his last name was Braun. I don't have in front of me what university he's with, but he was saying like basically the technology is there. It's just a matter of money because it's not cost effective yet.
Why don't we start Starfleet and there is no money? That's what I'm saying.
I want to see a GoFundMe
To start
for
Starfleet.
Mars. Just to start Starfleet, even better. Starfleet GoFundMe.
GoFundMe for Starfleet. No more money. We put all of it in one GoFundMe and then burn it up.
I wonder if Paramount would sue us calling it a fan film if we tried to do that.
No, this isn't a fan film. It's a fan fabrication. We're going to try and make Starfleet.
Oh, man.
That's really exciting. I like the idea of like the way to get people to Mars is just send hundreds of people there. It's like, yeah. If you send a few hundred people there, you kind of have to start a colony or else they all die.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It does seem, out of all the sci-fi I've read, the logical thing for Mars seems that the return trips to Mars, like we saw in The Martian, seem almost like a waste of like resources. It seems like it would make more sense to send permanent residents
Yeah.
to Mars,
Or
right?
at least like semi-permanent. Like people
Yeah.
are going to be there for a few years.
Yes, yeah, not like
Yeah.
30-day missions, but like
Yeah.
to set up like permanent structures there that maybe the crews can come in and out. But like
Yeah.
the movies that or the books that I've read that have like permanent colonies where it's just like it's a one-way ticket. You
Yeah.
just go. There's a logic to that. That like
Yeah.
as much as that's crazy,
But, like,
it
sending-
makes sense.
Like having colonists.
Yeah, true colonists.
Yeah. I think that does make sense.
Yeah.
You just have to worry about ghosts up there. You remember that Ice-T movie, Ghosts of Mars?
Oh my God, I forgot about that existed.
John Carpenter? There you go.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. All right, well, let's move on to our main topic
Yeah.
of discussion, which we wanted to revisit The Matrix.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
This is all I want to talk about.
But we thought it would be fun to revisit The Matrix and see, does it hold up? The Matrix is one of the most heralded sci-fi movies of all time.
Yeah. And I think it's because it's one of those movies where it really brought, oh man, I love it now. Now it's like I'm doing a spoken
Now you
word.
remember this movie in
Now it's
your
like I'm
gut.
doing a spoken word poem. It really brought, like, it bridged like some heavy sci-fi themes with action themes.
Yeah.
And it brought a lot of heavy sci-fi into the modern zeitgeist.
It brought it into the mainstream.
Yeah, where, like the idea that we're in a simulation and that we're being used as fuel has been around for a really long time. It was not new to, and like that the Earth is not the Earth. That wasn't new to the Matrix, and a lot of people point to like Dark City, which came out before the Matrix, as like basically the Matrix before the Matrix. They have some similar themes, but this was the first time I think like a huge mainstream movie had some really heavy science fiction stuff, at least in the 90s,
Yeah. So that's why we're asking.
Yeah.
Why we thought it was relevant to go back to it. And we just thought it'd be fun to rewatch The Matrix, which is a movie I haven't watched in like almost a decade, I think.
Same here, yeah.
And then that was when I first I really dove head first into it, because
Yeah.
I was reading like the Matrix and philosophy
Oh,
books.
the
and,
Animatrix came out. Love
oh
the
my
Animatrix.
God, the Animatrix. All right, we can fade down the music now, computer.
Or next track. This is dangerous.
But the plot line, that's what I want to ask first. Like, is it at all cheesy, silly? How did you feel watching? It's just the storyline.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about all the elements that go, because we're going to talk about the effects, the costumes, music, and the science and of it and all that. But just like the idea of, okay, we're in, like, robots have taken over. We are now human batteries, and there is one man, like, destined to save us all.
Yeah, I mean, the story itself is pretty simple. Like, it's a basic hero's journey, except Morpheus doesn't die. But it is a basic kind of hero's journey in which, Neo is asked to go on this journey. At first, he refuses it. He's finally forced to, and then, like, he comes to his power. I think the story itself holds up. I was noticing that the pacing, I think it would have to be faster if it came out today.
Yeah, I did notice that it feels smaller. Not in like scope, but
Yeah.
in just everything about the way it's made feels smaller than movies today.
There's a lot of like chasing the white rabbit,
Yeah.
which I was like, oh, this probably could have been edited out.
But like I did know like the hero's journey, like it's so apparent going back and rewatching it after being
yeah.
away from it. But the break from that hero's journey, I think, is important or intentional.
Yeah.
Because that's where he decided, I'm not following the standard path.
Yeah.
And he broke what was a completely structurally basic hero's journey, the same that we've seen in Star Wars, we've seen in Greek myths, that's outlined in Joseph Campbell. That was the moment where the Wachowskis decided, nope. And Neo at the same time decided, nope.
Yeah.
And broke that story. And then it flowed into its more Jesus-y mythology and references and all that.
I mean,
The unsubtle.
the very unsubtle Jesus mythology. I mean, the thing I liked going back, because it's also been like 10 years since I've seen this movie as well. I like going back and watching it, was it reminded me of the mystery about it when I first saw it. Like, who is Trinity? Why can she do this? Like when Neo first realizes that he can like move fast and like punch quickly in that fight, like all of that kind of stuff is so exciting when you realize it, like for the first time, when you see it for the first time. And like I didn't get that because I've seen the other two movies, and I know that there's a guy with a bunch of TV monitors and that there's a face made out of a bunch of robots, and Neo is not just a Jesus-like figure, he literally is Jesus.
Yeah. Well, that's like Langley, who is joining us. Thank you to all you guys who are joining us.
hey,
in the chat.
chat.
I think this is the most live audience we've had so far.
All right.
It's fairly. We want to increase it, but thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it. But Langley says problem was the Wachowskis didn't flesh out a decent trilogy.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of, this definitely set up sequels, but it also didn't need them. Like that's the thing I noticed at the end, was that it really did have a clean, an open but a clean ending.
Yeah, we were talking about Lost earlier. This story I think is better with things not answered. Like I think it's a better story where it's like, oh, this guy now has these powers. What's he gonna do? He's gonna fly. Rage Against the Machine is gonna play, and it's gonna be awesome.
It's something I'm super torn on with science fiction, because I usually want answers.
Same.
And I've never, the show that made me drop my constant need for answers was The Leftovers.
Okay.
I'm usually the person who's like, I want all the answers. Like for me, like 2001: A Space Odyssey is a movie most people are happy with the more artistic Kubrick,
ambiguous.
Kubrick ambiguity.
Yeah, sure.
I'm a huge fan of the Clark novel, where we get all the little intricate details of like not necessarily everything, but a lot more than the movie gave us.
I think it depends on the story for me.
Yeah.
Because like Lost specifically was all about logic and like how things fit into this world logically. So it kind of lended itself to needing to have answers.
Well, Lost, part of what I loved about it, and similar to The Matrix here, is that it used the ideas that it presented on screen and forced you as a viewer to also approach them. Like with Lost, the way that it was the debate on that show was always science versus faith.
For sure.
And so it became like, do you just like give yourself over to the showrunners and let them do whatever they will and let the rules be the rules? Or are you like, no, I need to know what the rules are and why these things are happening and get all these answers? And it, like the viewers ended up having the same debate as Jack and Locke.
Yeah. And in this, I think I agree. Yeah, I agree with
we should revisit Lost at some point.
We should. We definitely should. I agree with the person in the chat where going and watching it, a lot of it was ruined. Like that mystery of Trinity, like was completely ruined by the sequels. And like, because in this movie, she seems indestructible. Like she seems so powerful and indestructible. Like even though Morpheus gets kidnapped, he's still super like mysterious and seems indestructible as well, even though he gets kidnapped. Like all these people, like the mystery about them makes them really interesting. Like I don't need to know the adventures of the Nebuchadnezzar and like what happens with Ghost and Jada Pinkett Smith.
Yeah, but I think like if you watch it and just like try to put the sequels out, I think the movie
holds
the
up
story
great.
still is good. The philosophical questions that it raises are still interesting. Like just the basic ideas of like what is like reality.
Yeah.
Is it what your brain senses, or is there more to it? Like that is still like the virtual reality, I think, has only become more relevant. Like the questions that raises about virtual reality is only becoming more and more apparent as we get closer to that actually being a thing.
Well, a couple of years ago, there was like that summit with a bunch of theoretical physicists, and they all said that it's statistically more likely that we are currently living in a virtual reality than a not virtual reality.
I still don't understand that.
I don't understand it either, but I'm obsessed with it, and it keeps me up until 4 a.m. every day.
I believe it.
I love what this did to fight choreography. I think since this movie, like the way fights are shot, the way people view like how a fight, like the way directors view how a fight tells a story was changed because of this movie.
Yeah.
And I think it made fighting in movies like so much better because it became more cinematic and it became kind of beautiful. And then it was able to kind of contrast that where now, like, for instance, like Civil War, the fights were super dirty and like really broken, like Captain America Civil War.
Yeah.
Like none of the fights were beautiful. Like they were all like dirty and like
I assumed you didn't mean like the actual Civil War.
not Ken Burns' the Civil War.
Yeah. But let's talk about the effects.
Yeah, sure.
Because the effects are usually the thing in science fiction movies that don't hold up
Yeah.
super effectively. And like some of them do look like this one. If we look at this picture, it's one of the agents like dodging bullets
yeah.
and like we're seeing like the wake and everything. It still works to an extent. I think the trails that like things like bullets and everything leave look a little silly now.
Yeah.
But like the movement, like the idea behind the movement still works.
Yeah, it looks like a Sci-Fi Channel like original movie now. which is just like the nature of how like computer graphics and everything is just progressed so much since this movie came out.
Yeah.
It was 99.
I mean, the CGI, like if we look at the next one, the next photo, where the mirror covers him, it looks like it's that like
Yeah.
weird, like too smooth liquid.
Yeah. The Adventures of Alex Mack.
Yeah.
Like Alex Mack.
But some of the effects, like the mouth when he there was a little bit of digital in there, but
Yeah.
a lot of prosthetic, and those moments really did hold up because there's a lot of like the bullets and like explosions and everything they did practically.
Yeah.
So it manages to it holds up for 90% of the effects because they're not using CGI. Even the ship flying looks pretty good.
It looks pretty good. Yeah, in the CGI world, I have a feeling that if we watched The Matrix 2, we would have some real issues with I forget the next one, Revelations. Reloaded. R word. I feel like I feel even remembering watching it in theaters and seeing that scene where he fights all the Agent Smiths in the courtyard and being like, this just looks like a PlayStation 2 cutscene. Like I feel like that we would have some issues with this. But this, yeah, the mix of practical with computer and like that creature, the tracking creature they put in his stomach looked real good.
Yeah.
It looked real good and real scary. It still kind of gives me a visceral reaction.
Yeah. It looks like they put their budget into very specific things.
Yeah.
Or it was just like where it was limited. Like the jagged edges of the ship probably makes it easier to render than trying to render a liquid, which like getting all the lights and everything for liquid is actually incredibly complex.
Yeah, they didn't have Maya back then.
Costumes was the thing that is like that holds up for me the least.
Oh my god,
The costumes in this, like I pulled this photo because it's the most like it was so early in the movie and it was like instantly I just remembered like, oh my god, that's right. They all run around in nothing but leather for some reason.
Black leather trench coats and sunglasses. They were so cool. Like I remember being in middle school and being like, I want sunglasses, I want a leather trench coat. I want to be in leather all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it looks but like especially Trinity with like the tight leather pants.
Yeah, man.
Like in this shot, like don't get me wrong, looks real nice.
Yeah, sure.
Not like practical in any way, shape, or form.
No, I want a scene where they're all like, it's in the middle of summer and they're all sitting on a couch and they stand up and it's just like
there is no heat, Jesse.
You tell that to my pants.
Yeah.
Tell that to my goddamn pants. Yeah, I mean, it's great. I love it. And I think I would argue that it holds up great because it makes it a period piece and it makes it like this is the equivalent of like them in Victorian dress where it's like, yeah, they look ridiculous, but at the time that was the coolest anyone could look. That shot of Neo in the leather trench coat and like walking around the streets, that was the coolest anyone could look at that time.
I just want to know where they decided to make they all uniformly decided we're all dressing in leather whenever we go into the Matrix.
Hey, man.
Everyone cool with that?
If you could decide what to wear, why wouldn't you choose leather?
I mean, I guess if it doesn't heat up at all.
Yeah, maybe it's like a thing where it's like, hey, cows aren't real, so we aren't actually slaughtering them to create this leather. So let's be proud of that.
Mind you, this isn't, and none of them are wearing like beaten leather where it looks nice. It's like a little faded. Like,
No,
this is
it
all
is
like pristine black leather.
Laminated, super shiny leather.
Uh.
And sunglasses. Everyone wears sunglasses. It's super bright.
Oh man.
Do you think that's because they're in the real world where there's no sun and they're underground, so they're not used to how bright it is?
So
that's why they wear sunglasses all the time?
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know if physiologically that works with your brain going into the Matrix, but that would be a good explanation. That because in the real world they're always underground in a series of tubes, they wouldn't be used to seeing the sun or having that type of brightness around them. Guys, I just solved a problem.
I mean, it makes sense. It partially makes sense until you start to look at like Morpheus's sunglasses that don't have
Morpheus's sunglasses make perfect sense. How dare you?
Oh man, I love the chat. Sky the boss is just like the costumes were ... Oh my god. And Langley says, I had a leather trench coat in college.
Yeah,
all
you did.
6'6" of me looked badass.
Yeah, you did. Oh man, 6'6" trench coat. I imagine that's amazing.
It is like the most 90s thing ever.
It's so, but like,
and the Matrix was set, like the Matrix itself was permanently looped in 1999.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Somehow.
that's the other thing is like, no one dressed like that in the 90s per se, but everyone thought they dressed like that. Like
Well, that's how they thought hackers dressed.
That's how they thought hackers dressed.
Remember, this was the scene where like
that's right.
they show up and they illegally buy a computer program from him.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and they were at a hacker party.
Because they were at a hacker rave.
Yeah,
because everyone raved in the 1999. Because you had that rave, and then you have like the real life rave.
Oh yeah, the second rave.
Oh man.
The Cirque du Soleil presents a rave.
But before we move off costumes, I do want to talk about the agents.
Yeah, sure.
And we have a pic of them. Because the thing is, the agents, for me, part of, I think, what helps this movie hold up so well is that the agents' costumes are so basic that they manage to still be threatening and not silly in the slightest bit. Even, what are we, 17 years later?
Yeah.
It just these are just like threatening government types.
Also, Hugo killed it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, put on the best performance in this movie by far. Like, this catapulted his career, like, into some major movies. And, like, he's so good in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, he is so good at conveying a machine that is not supposed to feel emotion and being a just pure rage. Like, he's not supposed to feel it, yet that is all he embodies.
And it just builds upon itself. I shouldn't feel rage.
Yeah.
Now I'm mad that I feel rage, and it's making me rage.
It's so good. This movie. But yeah, I agree. I think that the agents, also it makes them really easy to spot in like those scenes where like they're being chased in a crowd. Like they immediately stand out. And like when like a bystander turns into an agent, it's always really cool.
It's creepy.
Yeah, it's great.
And those effects held up pretty well, surprisingly. Maybe not the one where the head is like weirdly expanding. The hands parts really worked.
Yeah, the hands worked really well.
But yeah, Mr. Smith is still like I think one of the best sci-fi villains of all time.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Like the level of threatening that he has mixed with like there's actually something interesting about his story and an arc that he has to follow in this movie. and in the subsequent sequels, like to an extent.
That virus speech is one of the best. Like,
Yeah,
him,
because you sit there and you're like, oh,
yeah, like
wait.
because it has elements of truth to it, which makes it a great speech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes you question the fact that maybe humanity is kind of terrible.
Yeah.
Womp womp.
You find out in the Animatrix, we blacked out the sky.
The music, I
Is
think,
the best thing.
The music is still pretty amazing. It definitely dates it to a certain extent.
Oh, it's so
but
good.
it's so good.
Yeah. Man, it's Zach, you're entering the sketch world. I've been in the sketch world for a long time. I use songs from the Matrix soundtrack all the time in my sketches. I love this soundtrack so much.
Oh my god.
It's so good. Like, and again, I think it's one of those things where they took like the culture, like the grunge culture, which is what I think the trench coats were kind of a play on, where like a lot of grunge people wore like dusters and would wear jackets around their waists, which would kind of give them the look of wearing a trench coat. And so they took that and took it a bit further and gave them like just a full-on leather trench coat. And I think again they took like the way the culture had been turning, and like there are some grunge elements to the music here, but it's mostly techno, and it's like hard techno that hello, it's hard techno, and it fits everything that happens in the movie.
Yeah.
Great. Like it doesn't stand out. It doesn't feel weird like in Suicide Squad where you're just getting 1,000 songs a minute. Like it fits the story perfectly. I loved it.
Yeah. It was solid. It was fun. It was interesting. No, we got to talk the science, because this is Sci-Fi Weekly.
Yeah.
So we got to hit the science, and we got to ask ourselves, like, what would Neil deGrasse Tyson say about the Matrix?
Seeing is not believing.
Jesse, what do you think?
Well,
let's go off on the battery thing.
Well, yeah, I know humans are not the most efficient way to get power.
Or even, I think that a lot of studies have shown, like, even reasonable, the amount of energy you have to put into a human far exceeds that which you might be able to get out of them.
Yeah, they could use potatoes and it would be a better source of power than humans. Just because of how efficient potatoes are at creating power versus how inefficient humans are. But I think he would say that you technically cannot prove that we are not in a simulation right now.
Oh yeah, he's very much like part of that crowd. Like he's quoted as saying, "Yes, we all could be living in the Matrix."
Yeah, and that there's no way you could prove that to be incorrect. So that's what I think he would say. Do you have any other stuff?
I mean, it's very interesting. I just for kicks, I just typed it in. There's an article from like since we went on the show about Neil deGrasse Tyson and the Matrix.
Yeah.
But look, I think that the battery thing is a cool idea.
It is.
It
I think it's a great
ultimately
idea.
it ultimately just scientifically doesn't make any sense. But I do think it is a fun sci-fi concept.
Yeah.
But that said, the idea of us living in a virtual, like all of humanity living in a virtual world, that I think is something that I could almost see happening.
Yeah.
Like think about a future where the world is terrible,
Yeah.
but we need to like keep running machines or whatever. So what we live in is a virtual construct where we're all in pods and living in a fake world. And like some people's jobs are going to be just going and like you basically step into like a drone pilot seat in the virtual world and like do maintenance outside of it.
Yeah.
It's sort of like now I'm thinking of like Surrogates.
Yeah.
That comic and then the movie. But like that idea that like we could be just like this could, because of air quality or global warming or any of these terrible things that could nuclear holocaust, like all these things, like it could just leave us happier, like Cypher, like living in this fake world.
Cypher
even if
has
we know it,
Yeah.
it might be better.
Cypher has a great argument. Like Cypher's argument is great that now the steak doesn't taste as good anymore because he knows that it's not. He sees the code. He knows it's just code telling him it tastes like steak.
Yeah, and Neil deGrasse Tyson says if you have a tremendous computing power, you could simulate every possible thing that could occur, including the neurosynaptic firings in the characters that you create. So in that sense, what's to stop you from thinking that the characters that you've created are themselves real?
Yeah,
The brain can be tricked.
for sure.
We know
the brain
that
wants to be tricked.
Yeah, we know that just from the simple things of like the fact that we can manipulate artificial limbs, like the fact that we can use brain signals to send back. We can send sounds and sights back to the brain with cameras now to like help people who are blind or deaf. But that could like, who's to say you can't feed a fake video into that feed?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the brain wants to be tricked. Like when you're talking about artificial limbs, like there are people who feel things in their artificial limbs, like feel it as if they were real limbs.
Yeah.
And that's because the brain is making that connection.
Yeah. Kristian Blatt joining us in the chat room. Hey, Kristian. He said, Skynet will make you happier. Skynet is love.
It sounds great.
Skynet is peace.
Sounds great. Let's sign up.
Yeah, let's all... if we give in to Skynet, then we can all be Skynet.
Great.
Think about it.
Send your creepy skeleton robots my way.
All right. Do you have any other thoughts on The Matrix?
Well, I think if our opening question is it cheesy? Is it silly? The answer is 100% yes. This is not a serious...
But any more so than it was at the time.
I think it is a very schlocky film.
I think it has more cheese now than it did then. Because
yes.
I remember in 1999, in the year 2000 and all that, we took this movie so seriously. Like, this was like, this movie should win all the Oscars. It will go down as the greatest film of all time. Or maybe it was just because we were younger.
I think it might be a mix of that but yeah, I mean, I think it is funnier now because all I have to do is see that picture of Neo in that leather jacket and I'll start laughing, or like hear a track from the soundtrack and I'll start laughing.
Yep.
But in itself, the movie is really cheesy. And I think it's great because of that. That's not a negative idea. It's a positive idea. It's the right amount of cheese. It takes itself seriously in a ridiculous situation, and it's better for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think ultimately the question, does The Matrix hold up? The answer is yes. Is it exactly the same film you remember? No. But it absolutely holds up, and it's still enjoyable. And it's the kind of thing, like, if somebody hadn't seen The Matrix, I would only have to give slight, like, warnings going into it.
Yeah.
Like, I would have to... It doesn't hold up in that sense where, like, you can't just show it to somebody.
Yeah.
But you can be like, the outfits are silly, but get past that.
The music's ridiculous.
Well, I don't even think you need to caution against the music. The music fits in its own way. It makes it a unique movie. But the costumes, like, take you out of it because they're so ridiculous. But other than that, really, and other than the costumes and some of the effects, the movie is pretty much just like, you could just show this to somebody brand new to it, and they would enjoy the movie.
I agree. Yeah.
So does The Matrix hold up? Yes,
it does. Yeah.
With a slight asterisk. All right, let's for one time, let's move into mission assignment for the week. We were debating back behind the scenes, and we took it to the viewers to decide.
We did. We left it to you guys
because we love the mission assignments. It's been fun.
I love them.
But we also, like, going into the fall, there was a lot of fun to be had with, like, sci-fi moments of the week because there's so much going on.
There's so much that's going to happen.
So
in this
we
fall.
decided for the fan interaction version, we would leave it to you guys. Did you want to keep doing the weird mission assignments every week, or just to, like, send us every week your favorite sci-fi moment of the week? And the votes are in, and sci-fi moment of the week is the new thing.
Great.
So basically, what we want you guys to do is every week, when you see that moment on television or that movie that came out that you're just like, that was ridiculous. It could even
read a book.
Or you read a book. You read a comic. All these things. Even it could
play
even
a video game.
It could even be a sci-fi in real life type of story. Just something from the science world that blew your mind. send it to us, and we want to hear the roundup from you guys of what's out there, because that way we can all find new things.
Yeah.
That's how we all discover new projects. So for me, like, my sci-fi moment of the week was the Lost concert.
Yeah,
because
sure.
it just transported me back to that show, which, like, is one of the shows that made me truly love television.
Yeah, same here.
I want to work in television more than I wanted to work in movies. Like,
Yeah.
I fell in love with TV because of that show.
It was the first TV show I ever got angry at. Like, I cared so much about it that I got angry at it. My sci-fi moment of the week is I was going through some old stuff, and I reread a book called Revelation Space, which is just one of the best sci-fi books out there. It's got characters that have quantum brains, which means that their brains exist in all realities, and so they can, like, compute at a quantum level. It's great. I love it. If you haven't read it, it's great. Revelation Space, go find it. There might be an audiobook. I don't know.
Yeah, that's basically how I read everything now.
Yeah, we're in LA. We read in traffic.
We read in cars,
Yeah.
so we can't look at things.
Yeah.
Or we'd crash.
Or we crash.
Yeah, we need those auto-driving cars from,
Get 'em
like,
outta
the
here.
future that, like, I mean, they're close now, but they need to be effective.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for Sci-Fi Weekly. Until next week, stay tuned to Twitter and Facebook and all that. We'll announce what we're going to cover next week.
Yeah.
But later in October, we're going to be talking about some horror stuff throughout October.
Yeah,
so look
so
for some
excited.
horror stuff next week. What exactly that's going to be, stay tuned. In a few weeks, in 3 weeks, we're going to be talking about Shin Godzilla, the Japanese Godzilla film that's coming out with a limited release. We're going to do a review of it once it's out. Until next week, I've been your host, Zach Wilson. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @ZachWilson, ThatZachWilson. Other place you can find me, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. After Show, which is also with Jesse, over on our Marvel Movie News. You can also find us this Saturday,
Guys, this
talking
Saturday.
about Luke Cage. Luke Cage is dropping on Netflix and on our sister network, AfterBuzz TV. We're starting the Luke Cage After Show, which we're going to be marathoning it most of the day Saturday.
It's going to be great.
So at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, join us for the first after show. We're going to be covering episodes 1 and 2. Then after that, we're going to stop. We're going to go watch 3 and 4, which so you guys can go watch 3 and 4, and then come back and join us at about noon to do the after show for 3 and 4. Then at 3, we come back for 5 and 6. Spend your whole Saturday in your pajamas with us and Luke Cage. Sweet Christmas. It's going to be fun. Jesse?
You pretty much covered what I'm going to be doing. You can find me at Twitter and Instagram at JessKlein1. You can see me doing live comedy all around the Los Angeles area. That's about it.
Lastly, a thank you to Sky the Boss and Sylvia Love, who said Doom is cute.
Oh.
Doom appreciates your kind words. All right, guys, for Sci-Fi Weekly, that is going to be it. Remember, you're only one lab coat away from being a real scientist.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.